Have you ever just stopped and thought, how could a perfect God create the very being that would become the source of all evil? Well, today we're diving right into that, using the work The Creation of Lucifer, intentional or accidental, to explore a puzzle that has honestly stumped thinkers for centuries. So let's just get straight to the heart of it. If you start with the idea that God is all good and all powerful, then evil, well, it just doesn't seem to fit, does it? It feels like a massive logical contradiction. How can absolute perfection produce something so imperfect? That's the core puzzle we're trying to piece together here.
And really, this whole dilemma pushes you into one of two corners. On one side, you have the idea that maybe, just maybe, evil was an intentional part of some grand, cosmic plan we can't fully see. Or, on the other side, was it all just a terrible accident, a tragic, unexpected result of giving creation free will? Was it a feature or was it a bug?
To really understand the fall, you first have to appreciate the incredible height he fell from. So let's rewind. Let's go all the way back to the beginning and meet the star of this story not as the villain we know, but as the absolute masterpiece he was created to be. I mean, just think about his name for a second. Lucifer. It literally means light bringer. And the source material really emphasizes that this is no accident. He was designed to be the peak of divine creation, perfect, brilliant, just stunningly beautiful. And that context is so important because his fall wasn't just some simple mistake. It was the corruption of the very best thing God had made. So the rebellion itself, that's the main event. It's the why that matters so much more than the what. What on earth could possibly motivate a perfect being to turn his back on a perfect creator? This act wasn't just simple disobedience. Theologically speaking, this was the moment that chaos got its first foothold in a perfectly ordered universe. Okay, so we've met our main character. Now let's take a look at the setting. And this is where things get even more baffling, because let's call it the scene of the crime, was a perfect world. And this is the paradox that's so hard to wrap your head around. See, in our world, we can usually trace evil back to something, scarcity, trauma, broken systems. But in a completely flawless creation, made by a flawless creator, where does the idea of evil even come from? It's like trying to find where the darkness came from in a room that has no walls and no shadows. Now, listen to that wording carefully. The key word there is allowed. So the question isn't just how evil could pop up out of nowhere, but why a totally sovereign God would permit it. That one word, allowed, it shifts the whole story from being some unforeseen accident to a permissive act. It suggests God wasn't surprised by this, which, you have to admit, makes the whole mystery even deeper. All right, so this brings us right to the main event, the absolute core of this whole debate. What we're looking at is a head-on collision between two theological heavyweights, God's total sovereignty and genuine free will. So here's the fundamental problem, right? If God is truly sovereign, totally in control of absolutely everything, then how can any choice we make be genuinely free? But on the flip side, if our will is truly free, how can God be truly sovereign? It really feels like you can't have both. Some's got to give, or does it? Well, the source material suggests looking at it not as a paradox, but as a sequence, a chain of events. So first, the sovereign act is God giving the gift of choice. Then, that choice is genuinely used to rebel, and boom, that's how evil gets in. But, and this is the real kicker, this rebellion doesn't derail the divine plan. Instead, the plan is shown to be so massive, so all-encompassing, that it had already accounted for this possibility, weaving it into a much larger story of redemption. Okay, so we've been digging into this ancient cosmic drama, but why does any of it really matter to us, right here, right now? What are the stakes for today? Because according to this perspective, the fall of Lucifer wasn't just some historical event that's over and done with. No, it was the starting pistol for an ongoing battle between good and evil. And that cosmic conflict becomes the backdrop for every moral choice, big and small, that we face in our own lives. And that's how this ancient theological story suddenly becomes incredibly personal. The fight isn't just out there somewhere, it's in our world. And sometimes it's inside of us. So the source doesn't just leave us with an explanation for the origin of evil, it turns the question right back on us and asks, in this story that's still being written, which side are you on?